What's up, everyone? It is Richie here from the F1 podcast. Happy Friday. It is December 12th, 2020, 2025, and I'm here with Andrew Cleary, Friday night, and the officially F1 2025 season is in the books. We have a new champion. Congratulations to Lando Norris of McLaren. Well achieved. It went down to the wire. Literally the last race of the season. Andrew, how are you doing, my man? We got so much to talk about, and we obviously got to cover the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. But before we get into it, just want to thank everybody who came out to Garden Bar Bodega at 8 a.m. on a Sunday. Bar was packed, Andrew. I could not believe my eyes when I showed up at 7:45. It was awesome. It was awesome to see like 30 plus people come out to the East End, come support us, watch the race, got a couple more followers, some great content, but like overall they were there for a good race. And to describe it, like you had three different drivers who could have won the World Champ or Drivers' Championship that weekend.
Yeah, biggest race since Abu Dhabi 2021. And it didn't, you know what? It didn't fail to disappoint. I thought it was, even though it was standard by nature, you were on your edge of your seat every lap, wondering, especially when uh, Oscar overtook Lando early on to go from P2 to P3 and Max led P1. You're like, oh my God, is Lando going to lose position to Charles, which would then put him out of the championship? And you had to defend him for like 20 some odd laps. So it was gripping. It was a lot of fun. But at the end of the day, congrats to Lando. His consistency all year was on display there against, in Abu Dhabi when even though he did lose a position at the start, he was able to consistently drive through the field in P3, and that's all he needed to win the World Drivers' Championship. So hats off to Lando. It was a very entertaining final few races, and hats off to Red Bull and Max Verstappen for making it very entertaining in that sense.
I'm just going to remind you two, the number of points which Lando Norris took the Drivers' Championship ahead of Max Verstappen this year. Two. 2 points. Keep in
Those two
mind,
points were those 2 points were the moving up into P3 last weekend against Qatar. That was effectively the title decider. Was that overtake on Antonelli because P3 wouldn't have been enough at Abu Dhabi if he did. And then if so, like I wonder how that fight would have changed if he was, P2, lost the position to Oscar at the beginning of the race. Like that would have been super intense for Lando. So like having that little extra buffer was huge at
huge.
the end of the day.
Yeah, I'm going to go through a couple of statistics because I think it's very important for a maiden driver to win, who's won the Drivers' Championship. Like, listen, like we've been doing this podcast since 2021,
One. Yeah.
and every year it's been Max Verstappen. And so finally, the reign of Red Bull, I wouldn't say it's over, but like in terms of the winning championship. So this is the first time we have it. So
Mhm.
I'm going to run some stats off to you. 0.698, the smallest winning margin in seconds of all of Norris's victory, with this one occurring during his fifth triumph of the campaign in Hungary. I've already talked about the 2 points. Six fastest laps achieved by Norris across the season. Seven, Norris's total number of wins and pole positions from the 24 race campaign. Mind you, Oscar Piastri had, I think, 7 wins, as 6 wins or 7 wins. And then Max had, although he didn't win the Drivers' Championship, he had 8 wins this season. Eight, the number of races, weekends where Norris arrived as the champion leader. 13, how many times Norris beat Piastri in the intra-team head-to-head. 17, the number of years since McLaren's last had a driver's champion prior to Norris's success. Could you guess who that is? Mr. Lewis
Mr. Lewis
Hamilton.
Hamilton.
Their most recent driver's title was won by Lewis Hamilton in 2008. 18, the number of times Norris stood on the podium in 2025. 30.324 seconds, the largest winning margin in seconds from Norris seasons achieved just recently in Mexico City at the Mexican Grand Prix.
Hmm.
35, the number of world champions that Norris became. Sorry, he's the 35th champion in the Drivers' Championship. 423, total number of points scored by Norris by the end of the year. And I think that's the stats for now.
Well, also like the first non-Red Bull or Mercedes driver to win a world championship since Jenson Button in 2009. Like we are talking 16 years ago, man.
Of just dominance of two teams.
Yeah. And it was it, it, it just like, you were just so numb to be the fact that, oh, it's going to be Red Bull or Mercedes to win, right? And now you kind of get some new blood in the mix, and it's kind of okay. Lando has his first, and with the new regulations coming in next year, where engine is a big thing, and Mercedes is supposed to have the best engine, or allegedly, can McLaren start their run of dominance now? Like, we have back-to-back Constructors Championship, but now can they start having like, can Lando win 3, 4 in a row like Max did? So like, it's always the hardest one is your first one, right? The hardest one is to get the first one, and then now you know what it takes to win on Lando's side, and I imagine like that's just going to fuel him further and further and further.
What I would also say is, well, they ended up clinching the title and like, getting the drivers' championship, winning the constructors a couple of years. It is, we might talk about this at our end of year episode or during the Formies Awards or something like. There were moments this year that, we talked about earlier in this episode where it was not always sunshines and rainbows at McLaren. There were clearly some issues with papaya rules, and clearly, and I don't think that will be fully addressed until like that needs to kind of be addressed in the new year. Because like, it obviously is exciting to see somebody new to win the drivers' championship. However, at
Well,
what cost?
and one of them could be, remember in Australia when Oscar Piastri went off in the wet? He was in P2 and he went down to P9. Like that's 16 points, and he lost the championship by 13. So if that didn't happen, Oscar could have won the trophy, right? So there was so many, as you mentioned, so many moments, even going back to the first race of the season where that was a title decider in a way. And that's what made this year so special in the sense that there was three people like that was able to fight, and you could pinpoint any moment of the year that changes, but the whole point's all cumulative to the end, right? And it was just nice to see that we had a three-way fight, this year, because like we missed the days of 2021. Now, like I know people aren't very happy because it's McLaren, because it's Lando, and I
Yeah.
get why. But you can't be you can't you just it was nice seeing him cross the line and he was in tears and just how much it meant to him. Like you can't be, you know, but just happy for him at that point, right? And how much it meant to him and his family. It's something that he dreamed of as a kid, something that him and Charles would joke about when they did the streams together, back during the COVID
Or
years, in the
their
sense
karting days 10 years
karting
ago.
days, right? So, honestly, hats off to Lando. And, I was really impressed by how Max handled it as well. He wasn't disappointed in the loss, which, or he wasn't like truly disappointed. Obviously, you're disappointed in losing, but he was so impressed at how the team rallied behind him and he felt like it was a family that, he did all he could. And I respect the fact that he didn't back the pack up to try and make sure Lando, maybe got overtaken by Charles in the end there so that he could have won, similar to what Lewis did in 26, tried to do in 2016 with Nico Hulkenberg, not Hulkenberg, Nico Rosberg, sorry. So, trying to win it, at least Max winning it on merit in that case, can't but
He
hold
he
with
had he
highest
had
respect.
he had nothing to lose. He had a banger of a qualification on Saturday that really put him in the spot to really dominate. And um, yeah, like I'm looking at the stats right here, like 423 points for Lando. Max had, I said, 421. Oscar Piastri 410. Yeah, Lando had 7 wins. Oscar had 7 wins, but Max had 8 wins. But like he had nothing to lose that weekend. It's just, listen, I'm gonna go out there, I'm gonna try to win the race. Whatever happens behind me happens. Like, was there a moment when that Charles Leclerc looked like he could have caught Lando and for those first couple of
Ooh,
laps, like could have
especially in the
been
early on,
in the
I was worried
DRS
for Lando
zone?
big time.
Yeah, in the DRS zone, then we realized how much of a tractor the car has been all year. So it's like we kind of that's what I was anticipating. I was like, oh my gosh, could this be it? Like we've talked about how in some tracks this year, like teams have really like stepped up, particularly. I mean, but again, just could not compete with those three drivers. And like like I know this is the end of DRS in
Yeah.
its current format.
Moment of
Uh,
silence for our DRS king.
Yeah. So we
I hardly knew you.
we'll obviously see how the new regulations really come and when it comes to this battle to
Did
battle.
you see they have to now they banned the originally it was called the manual override mode or MOM, and then they so FIA put a directive saying they can't call that anymore because your mom isn't working or whatever. Like imagine having to hear
Yep,
that
yep,
radio
yep.
comment. So yeah.
Acronyms, man, acronyms.
I was like,
Um,
you couldn't have just called it something different, like IndyCar calls it push to pass. It's more of an engine setting, but it's like similar idea. You know what I mean?
and I thought for the most part, I think they've handled the championship. Okay, so I do have some criticism, like with how things maybe went after the race, but like for the most part, it was like I think it was really well done. Focuses a lot on Lando, even when they, obviously Max got the Abu Dhabi trophy, but like he knew that it was not the drivers knew that it was for Lando, so they all
Yeah.
got off and he celebrated on the stands. Got to spend it with his family, his girlfriend, even like Oscar's family was just like in good spirits supporting them. Like and all everyone, it was nice. Can we just talk about why the FIA president was it him that kept like trying to rub Lando's hair?
Yeah, I don't know what Dominicali was trying to do there. I also don't understand why. I get they have an F1, they have the FIA award show at the end of the year where they hand out the trophies.
See, I
But
think
in my
that should have
opinion,
been there.
why don't you just hand out the trophy when it gets won?
But I guess because of the FI, it's not
Oh,
just
who?
about
Yeah, but
F1.
who cares? Like, do it. It's just the F1 trophy. Like, you could hand it again to him at the award show. Like, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like it loses. It was weird that Lando got the P3 trophy and they're
And he's
just cheering
celebrating the third
ballistically,
tree.
right?
Yeah.
Celebrating. But why don't you give him the P3 trophy, but then hand him the World Championship trophy for him to celebrate with? But then also, I didn't like Coulthard at the in his post like in the post race press conference was saying, "Oh, you're still being under review for that overtake on Sonoda." And I'm like, "Dude, he just won the world championship. Who
Well, because that
cares?"
was the conversation is did his team tell him that he was under investigation? Because there was a moment, and I think we kind of underappreciate how maybe at moments when Sergio Perez was in that Red Bull second seat of some of the defending, we called
Yeah.
him the Minister of Defense. Yuki Tsunoda tried to do that, or tried to hold up Lando, and then got hit with a 5-second penalty. Then there was controversy because like did he pass him over both the white lines? Very hard to make that call. Kind of
But if
looked
you're the
like it.
FIA and you're the stewards, are you really going to make that call in the final race of the season, right? It's so subjective at
Well,
that point.
look at Massey, like Michael Massey.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, and then Alonso, I think he did the same maneuver where he kind of cut on the inside. I forget who it was to overtake, and there was no investigation of that either. So it's kind of like, okay, if you're going to call it consistent, be fair in that
Yeah.
ways. But imagine if it came down to a 10-second penalty called after the race. Like that would have been nuts. Oh, Lando, you're world champion. Here's all the graphics for you. Oh, by the way, stewards dictate 10-second penalty. You finish P2, you lose.
Yeah.
It's like, or P4 or whatever. It's like, what? No.
I don't know. It's so that you had a little bit of moments, but I think overall was anything like I mean all the focus is going to be like I feel like this episode is going to be talking about Lando like but just I just want to kind of go through some of the standings that happened in the constructors because I think there should be also some conversations based on some of the results there.
Mhm.
Alpine had 22 points, disappointing season. Sauber
Well,
got
in
70.
fairness, that was the most amount of points like a P10 team has finished with the constructors.
Yeah,
I forget, I don't know how long, but like, at least they had scored 22 points. It's just everybody else around them,
just got
lots of
better.
points scored.
Yeah. You got to look at it like, McLaren in 2020 or last year had 666 points in constructors. They had 833. Ferrari had 652, 398 this year. Red Bull had 589, 451 this year. So a lot of those points just kind of started to just go down to other teams. But like, we talk about Williams, the season that they had, P5, highest finish in a number of years in the constructor. That's going to help them in the development and the money
Well, and
cash for next year.
shout out to Carlos Sainz, like for F1, Daniel, friend of the show, like um, loved his stats. He's the only driver in this ground effect era to finish on the podium with two different teams. Like Ferrari, Williams, and like nobody else has done that. So like shout out to what Carlos has done with Williams this year and getting them a couple podiums. And shout out to how they've grown since James Vowles have taken over, right? They didn't care about finishing P9 and P10. They needed to break everything in order to get back to, what they were back, glory days. And, they were the best of the rest, which is a huge step up for Williams.
But I would think that some teams are probably very excited to get rid of their cars this year. No secret,
Ferrari
Ferrari.
being
Yeah.
one, like even Aston Martin being another, right?
Which
Like
is weird because I look at the stats here and they were one, two, three, four, five. They were P5 last year in the championship, 94 points. They had 89 points. So they were just a few points off, but like just talk about the margin of error because now they were P7. But yeah, a number of teams are probably very excited to get rid of their cars.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
I probably, you know what, and it's tough in a transition year, right? Because at some point in the year, you just you just discontinue all upgrades for the current model just to focus on 2026. And Richie, I heard some engine from I heard the Honda engine for 2026. I heard some soundtrack of that. Ooh, does it sound sexy? And that's an Aston Martin engine next in Aston Martin. So I'm excited. I'm curious to see what Newey does with the car. I've been saying tank the season, go on to 2026. I thought they were going to finish P7. I believe I said they finished seventh. They did finish P7. So it will be again. Within 90 days, we're going to be in Australia with a whole new regs,
85
everything like
days.
that.
85 days.
85 days. But we have, this season, I would argue it had like negative aura, unfortunately, because of McLaren and the whole controversy there with Papaya rules and then people not wanting Lando to win. But if we strip that away, probably one of my most favorite seasons of the year. We had three guys that won 7+ races and just showing how competitive it was amongst everybody in that sense, with George Russell finished winning the other two. But this is the first time I think believe since 2016, Lewis Hamilton when Max has won the most races in a win among all the drivers, but still did not win the drivers' championship.
It just goes to show that I was explaining to someone through text. A friend of the pod was texting me asking me my thoughts this season. I was like, honestly, like 24 races, it's a marathon. Like you cannot just like count anything out. Even like, we talk about being up 102 points. Like you think that they had this in the bag? No, and there was a possibility of like you need to capitalize when you can.
You think the calendar's too long?
Probably. And I think a lot of drivers probably say the same thing. And it's no secret. Like, I mean, you're starting in what, February? You end basically last week of December. You do get like 30 something
Like there's only
on.
90 days. There was only 90 days between the end of the season and the start of the next season, right? Like you're
Yeah.
basically going right into it. 3 months is nothing.
Well, and like we've heard that Max Verstappen say if they try to expand even more races or expand the calendar, I'm quitting. Like, and I don't blame him. This is a lot of travel for a lot of not only the drivers per se, but think about all the personnel that like
Yeah.
all the people in the garage, all the people in the hospitality suites, the media. Like, yeah, you're pretty much away for 200 something days of the
Yeah.
year.
And that's why, like, IndyCar, NASCAR, they can get all those races done in the summertime because it's just basically traveling around the United States, right? It's just crazy how global, I wouldn't say it's how global F1 is, it's just great. But again, the calendar is just like, we go to the United States 3 times in a year, and it is like 3 separate months that we're going there. We don't bang out 3 races in a row. We do Miami in May, and then it was like Coda in October and Las Vegas in
In
November. It's like,
November,
dude,
yeah.
like just put them all together.
Or just like here's my favorite is, we're gonna be racing in Montreal and a sprint race in May, and there could be a potential there might be snow.
And Max wanted to race on the North Pole, or he said like that would be the most interesting spot. Montreal might be the North Pole come May.
Yeah, yeah. The weather is very unpredictable. I'm going again next year, so if you are going to the Canadian Grand Prix next year, let us know. We are gonna probably do another meetup, but we'll decide that closer to anyways. But like I think honestly, Andrew, hats off to an amazing season. Yeah, like I think this has been my favorite season to follow. We took some risks and some decisions points for us this year, but I think it's paid off tremendously. New watch party location, and it's been
Hmm.
honestly it's so much fun, and just the amount of success that like we can look at this year. And we post our Spotify Wrapped in terms of video up 252%. Followers are up 16%. And talk about like, hey, I found your podcast meetup on Threads. I found it on Instagram, on Reddit. Like there's a lot to be proud of this year.
Yeah.
And we as we head into the holiday season, I just want to say like how thankful
Mhm.
we are to you, our followers, and to everybody that has just been supporting us, even from like, Claudia is one of the first followers or fans of us from the beginning. She's posting photos and help sharing our event, and just opening it up to you know, more F1 fans here in Toronto. And we want to make sure when we do our watch parties that it's all about the fans. And, we're going to continue to, I think what I'm going to do, we're going to continue to look at opportunities that, get more people involved. And I think next year, we might do a social event before the season starts. So just check on social media. But like, yeah, just want to say a big thank you, thank you, thank you to everybody. Like, we do this as a passion project. We do this for, it as a meetup, and we want people to be, we really appreciate it. So I think I've said it, appreciation and thank yous like 20 times.
And honestly, the fans, this is you drive our motivation to continue on doing this. And, your interactions with us, not only like at the meetups, but also on, Instagram, on threads, like, having direct message, fun conversations, right? Replying to stories. It's just like that, that's what I love about our podcast in the sense that we are fan first in, Formula One second, really, in that sense
Yeah.
too, right? But and it's been amazing to see all the support that we've gotten, especially with the change to Garden Bar. Can't thank Garden Bar enough for hosting us, and we're excited to continue our partnership with Garden Bar and really grow the race. Unfortunately, this year, busy plate on my end. I was, moved houses, so I wasn't able to attend the Garden Bar. But next season, bang, bang, bang. Expect me to be there.
Yeah, I'm already talking to the owners about the next season and looking at times when we think it's appropriate to open the bar on some of those early races. So it'll be a conversation. Just check on both our social media channels. But yeah, hats off to an amazing season. Congratulations again to Lando Norris, on his maiden win and as the 2025 F1 Drivers Champion. I think the photos of him and his trophy should be coming out from F1 shortly. Andrew, as always, thank you so much for your coming on. Well, I'm not gonna say coming on, but great episode. I think
Yeah.
there was like we could have talked about more stuff in the race, but like I think the focus had to be on Lando Norris. He
It
deserved
is
it.
the focus is on Lando because he deserved it. It was 24 races of the year where he was the most consistent of anybody, right? And consistency wins championships. He won the championship. He deserves the time for us to talk about him in that sense. And let everybody know we have one more episode to end the season. It'll be coming up soon. It'll be our 2025 recap as well as our Formula Awards. So fans, we want you to send us some Formula Award ideas and as well as some, we'll post them out there. We would like your nominations as well. Because
No,
again, we're for the fans, right? And we're fueled by the fans in that sense.
yeah, and I think also just to add, we are looking at doing some more interviews with some drivers that are driving in the motorsport world right now. So please stay tuned to social medias as we got some fun ones potentially being lined up. I'm just going to knock on wood. But thank you for tuning into this week's episode of the F1 podcast. I'm Ricci. This is Andrew. And we want to wish everyone a happy holidays and a happy new year. And stay tuned to next week where we'll cover our annual Formies episode. And I can't wait for some of the nominations and some of the award winners. I already know a couple of them that probably are well deserving, but we'll save it for next week's episode.
That was good.
See you, everybody. Thank you
Take
so
care,
much.
everybody.